Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to teach you the basics of CSS. CSS is what gives the web the way it looks. In our previous tutorial, I taught you the basics of how to read and write an HTML file. You may have noticed that the output looks nothing like how the web looks today. It has a white background and some black text. Rather boring. And the only way that we could actually change the look of it was maybe adding a bold tag or an italic tag. This is where CSS comes in. It allows us to apply more dynamic and enriching styles to the way our web page looks, such as a background color, change the color of the text, and positioning, and so on, to make this page look like the next Facebook. But let's not get carried away. Today, we're just simply going to be focusing on the basics of how CSS works, so that in the future we can apply these skills and get more advanced with how our styles look. A CSS page always ends with a file type .css. In this case, I name my style sheet stylesheet.css. Now we need to tell our HTML page what style sheet we wish to use. So in the head portion of the HTML page, we simply do a link tag and we give it its name of the style sheet we wish to use, in this case, style sheet. CSS works fundamentally off of what are known as selectors. Selectors are types of HTML code that we wish the styles to be applied to. We can target a selector by an element type, such as body or an h1 tag. And actually in the HTML code, we are targeting the body tag or the h1 tag. And this applies for all tag types, such as an image, an h1, a paragraph, a horizontal rule. Anything that has the less than or greater sign and a text, that's an HTML tag, therefore we can use a selector for it. And this will target all elements of that type. The second type we have is what is known as a CSS class. What that does is it allows us to target multiple elements of different types and apply a style to all of them that have that class name. So what we can do is we can give a class name that begins with a dot, which represents a class, then the name of the class we wish to name it. And if we wish to target a single element, such as one line or one header, we can use an ID, such as example2. That begins with a pound sign and then the string. So here we're saying a class with the name of example1, or here we're saying an ID with the name of example2. In the written out HTML code, we see the element names like we did before, but now we have a new attribute to apply to these tags. Here we have a class named example1. And we go ahead and apply that to the h1 in the following two paragraph tags. That means that as we use the selector for that class, a style that we apply will be applied to all three of these different elements. And the string that we use for a class name is case insensitive. So here we can have a camel case, or here we can just simply do a weird case. It's common and best practice to use the same case for all your classes of the same name. But for convention or example, I'm going to leave this alone for now so that you can see that it will still work. And the same thing applies for an ID. So actually going over to the style sheet, if we wish to change the background color, we begin with an attribute type, in this case background color, and I'm going to actually give it a value such as blue. As we refresh the page, the background color of the website changes to blue. If we change the color of all the text, we simply use the attribute type of color, and we'll give it a value of white. We'll go ahead and refresh that. Now, commonly, we won't be seeing a value that is white or blue. We'll more commonly see a hexadecimal value, which is a pound sign followed by 6 characters or numbers. So in this case, the hexadecimal representation of white is a pound sign followed by 6 Fs. If we wish to target a color of all the h1 elements, such as here and here, we can just give it a color of red, and now all the elements of the type h1 will have a red background color, as they do now. Any styles that we apply between an opening and closing curly brace is what's applied to that body type. So in this case, this color red only affects the H1 tag, whereas this color and background applies to the entire body. With the H3 tag, it applies the same. We can just give it a color of yellow. And for fun, let's make the H5 have a color of blue, the same as the background. And as we refresh the page, we'll notice that the H3 tag has a color of yellow, and the H5 actually disappears with a color of blue. It blends into the background. That's something to watch out for. So let's go ahead and change that to yellow as well so we can at least see it. And for the elements H2 and H4 and H6, since we didn't specify their own override color, they default to the color of the body, which is white. If we wish to apply styles to the entire example 1 class, so this header and these 2 paragraphs, we can just simply do the element weight of, let's say, font weight and bold. And instead of having to put a B tag surrounding all 3 of those elements, we're going to go ahead and apply a bold attribute type to those 3 elements. So if we refresh the page, the title is bold, followed by the 2 paragraphs, but not the last paragraph because it does not share that class. For him, he has its own ID. So if we wish to target that one element of example 2, let's go ahead and do a text decoration of a line through it. And that will actually cross out the line. The purpose of CSS is it allows us to add more enriching visuals to our HTML code. And this is a step closer of taking our plain black and white files and bringing them closer to how the web looks. In the next tutorial, we're going to be taking the basics of what we learned in writing in HTML and writing our CSS and actually applying those and making a basic website. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoyed. Please leave any feedback in the comment section below. Thank you.